Welcome to City Week, ladies and gentlemen. Today I have on Debbie Burdett, who is the Executive Director for the Certified Literacy Community Program. Debbie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Well, it's always a pleasure to sit down with you, and we're going to talk a little bit about something that I know is very near and dear to your heart, and that's legging it for literacy here in just a moment. But before we get started with doing that, Debbie, I know that this is the 12th year that is coming up. I want to go back and just kind of help the viewing audience know how you got so involved with literacy and educating our kids here in the community. And I think they may have heard the story once before, but it doesn't hurt for them to hear it again. Okay, talk a little bit about that for us, Debbie.
Oh, okay. Well, I've always had an interest in education. You know, I started out, I was going to be a teacher, and I did my practice teaching at George Peabody College for Teachers and junior high, and for some reason I lost that that dream and went on to do other things. But then when we had children and they started school, you know, we were volunteering. We were always there with the PTO and school events, and it's always been important to me to make sure that my children and other children had the opportunities. And so came along and the opportunity to run for school board, and I thought, well, I can, you know, make a difference with that maybe. And then after that, the CLCP job came open. But an incident that happened before all of that is I was getting my driver's license renewed, and it was probably, I don't want to say 20 years ago, but it probably was 20 years ago because I've been doing this for 10. And there was a gentleman standing beside me that could not write his name. He had to write an X. And that just really spoke to my heart that here it was the 20th century and we had folks in our community that could not write their name. And so that really, you know, spurred me on to try and to address it not just from the children's standpoint, but from the adult standpoint. You know, where did we miss that gap? And with the CLCP, our main thrust is the adult students, trying to get them to come back in and get their GED and to be lifelong learners.
Absolutely.
And you know, we run into obstacles with that because a lot of people don't want to admit that they, you know, they don't have their high school diploma. And the way that we get the number is through the census, through the 2000 and the 2010 census. We learned that over 15,000 residents did not check on there that they had their high school diploma or their GED, and at the time that was about a third of our population.
Oh my goodness. You know, that was going to lead me to a question. Do you feel like, and you get that information from the census, do you feel like in the Troup County area we have a concentration of people that are functioning, I don't want to use the term illiterate, but functioning without those educational levels that they should? Yeah,
I really do, because we have Troup County literacy volunteers, and that's with our adults that come in that really, you know, cannot read at all. And I asked them, how do you go to the grocery store? You know, how do you do things? And, you know, the pictures, they go by pictures. They learn to compensate and, you know, make adjustments. And I'm just, you know, they survive. And I thought, you know, if you could just read, there's no telling what you could do. And this one lady, I asked, she would go into the restaurant to order, and I said, well, how do you know what to order? She says, I just order a 2-piece. You know, you go to the chicken place, I just order a 2-piece or a 3-piece, and that's what I get. So they just, you know, they learn to compensate, and I think they're just so smart. And it's nothing to be embarrassed about. You know, it's just something happened in your life that you weren't able to finish high school. So now you can come back. We have free classes at West Georgia Technical College. The CLCP has money that will pay for the GED test, which has gone up, which the price has, which to me is another stumbling block for folks. If you don't have your GED, then you don't have a job, then how are you going to get the money to pay for the test?
That's right.
But we're trying to remove all those stumbling blocks and make it, you know, as easy as possible to help you to achieve and get out, you know, to be that lifelong learner.
Well, you know, and Debbie, I know, and I just see the passion in your eyes and the passion in your heart too about helping people to understand, you know, the importance of being able to read, because there was a slogan, reading is fundamental, and I think when you're able to just comprehend the basic things, it helps you so much more along in life. And I know that's why that you have been involved with Legging It for Literacy for 12 years, and I know that part of your story also was that you taught Sunday school in your church as well, correct?
Right, I did, and that's how the Mama Jama character came to be from Vacation Bible School. And teachers ask me to come, and other people ask me to come, and part of that, I mean, the whole thrust of that is to try and get children interested in reading, that it's exciting. You know, when we talk about staying in school and getting that high school diploma, and they take the Mama Jama pledge, I promise Mama Jama I'll graduate from high school, and I also make them say, I promise myself I will graduate from high school.
That's
you know,
right.
and say that over and over. Don't let anyone tell you you can't do it, because I feel like a lot of our children are part of that cycle that their parents and their grandparents didn't finish school, and so it's just become natural for them just to drop out. But I'm just telling them you can do it. Don't let anybody tell you you can't.
Absolutely. And they have to realize they're making an investment in themselves, and a long-term investment in themselves
Right.
too. You know, so many times I have young people come to me and ask me, say, because I did policing some years ago, and they come to me and say, Officer West, can you help me get a job? And I always ask them one question, well, I ask them three questions, but the first question is, did you get your high school education? Because if you didn't think enough of yourself, then why should I think more of you than you think of you to help you to get into a job situation that you may not last at? And you know, talking about that, Deb, I know, and we're going to get to legging it momentarily, but I know that there are some other programs that are in place to not only help our adults, but helping the young people, because I know that, you know, you with a teaching background, it is so important that we catch kids in those early years. And I know there's a program that's housed out of the West Georgia Health System called First Steps. Talk about that for us.
That is such an exciting program to me, because we get the mamas right at the beginning when they have those babies. Now, I said when I first started this program with CLCP, I said we went from cradle to grave. And I said, no, we got to expand it a little bit more. I worked, and I said, okay, we're going to go from womb to tomb. And so then I said, you know, we got to expand this a little bit more now.
Right.
We're going to start from conception to resurrection.
Okay.
So we're covering everyone. So I tell these mamas when they're pregnant, start reading to that baby. Just let them hear your voice. They can hear your voice. And it's the vocabulary and the talking that I'm trying to get these mamas to realize it's so important. And when we visit with them in the hospital with the First Steps program, and that Norma Tucker is the executive director, and she needs volunteers, so if anyone would like to volunteer, you can contact me or Norma Tucker at the West Georgia Health. And we visit with the mamas in the hospital. We give them this little packet. It talks about brain development, it talks about things that milestones of what the child could be doing at a certain age, and we realize that children don't develop all the same. You know, they may be doing this, they may be ahead of that, but it's just a kind of a guideline to let you know. We give them the vaccination chart, we talk about that, and then we contact that mama. We try to contact them once a week for the next 3 months, just to see if they're having problems, and you know, if things are going okay. How's the baby doing? Are you reading to that baby every day? You know, reinforcing that reading and talking to the baby. You know, and it's not they say, well, I can't read to this baby 15 minutes. You're right, you're not going to read that baby. It's just going to be like 1 second here, 1 second here. But have books, have the literature, have the information in the home for the baby, and you'll just be surprised at what that baby can do.
Absolutely. You know, I think Patty was here on a week or so ago, and she was talking about the very same thing, talking about when you read to that child, you know, just those 15, 20 minutes, how many more vocabulary words that child has, you know, just from those few moments. But you think about it, and I'm going to assume that you start at early conception reading to the child, and then you do that through the 9-month cycle. So if you take only 10 minutes out of a day, 5 minutes out of a day, you know, how much that adds to that child's, you know, developmental stages and stuff.
Well, I have to tell you, I recently became a grandmama, so I've got hands-on experience in this. And, you know, not to say my little grandbaby is a genius, but, you know, but we have books, and, you know, Becky has been, you know, reading to her, and it's, you know, pointing out the colors, and you don't get 15 minutes at one time with you know, once they start moving around.
That's right.
But just talking to the baby, just, you know, when you're folding clothes, look, mama's folding clothes. These are daddy's pants, or these are mama's pants. These are blue, these are green. You know, I find so many mothers, you don't have to have all these toys and expensive things. It's just the vocabulary and talking. When you go outside, you know, the grass is greener. Let's feel this tree, it feels rough. Just giving those children the vocabulary words that, you know, that talking.
You know, and that reminds me of a commercial that I saw on television, and the lady's there, and she's in the laundromat, and she's putting clothes in the dryer, and she's talking, but you see no one but herself, and then eventually the camera pans down, and her little daughter is standing down there, and so the daughter's standing there watching everything, taking it in. I say kids are like sponges.
Absolutely.
They soak up everything that they see and hear their adult parents talk about. In another program that's in our community, Debbie, that I know that you're involved with as well, is out of the Troop Bell Early Learning Program too. And I think so we got them at First Step. Now we have another program that kind of helps them. Talk about that for us too.
Troop Bell, and it stands for Building Early Learners for Life, and it goes with that lifelong learning. I say we never stop learning. And part of this program is housed in the Housing Authority now, and they meet with mothers once a week. You get the children, it's from 1 to 4, or from birth to 4, I guess, and it's just to go in with the mothers and give them some parenting tips, and to be a support for the mothers, because a lot of times we have these young mothers that are having babies, and they just just need a little support.
That's right.
And that's what the Bell, they're parent educators is what we call them, and they go in and they just give the mothers some tips, and sort of like what we tell them when they're in the hospital. These are the milestones, and this is the brain. Just reinforcing over and over. And so what they hear from the hospital, they're going to hear from the parent educator, and then when they get to school, they're going to hear it from the teacher. We want to make that a partnership with the teacher, that once the child gets to school, they're going to be ready to learn, and that teacher becomes the parent at school. We have the parent at home, then you got the teacher, to respect that teacher as a parent teacher, and to learn.
Absolutely. And you can never stop learning. I tell you what we're going to do, Deb. We're going to take a short commercial break. We're going to come back, because we want to talk about your antennas, and we also want to talk about legging for literacy. So let's take a short commercial break. We'll come back in just a moment, and we'll start talking about legging for literacy, okay?
Sounds great.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're back for more City Week in just a moment. Welcome back, City Week, ladies and gentlemen. We're sitting down today with Debbie Burdett, the Executive Director for a Certified Literacy Program. And Debbie, we left off talking a little bit about some of the programs in our community that help our young people. Then we're going to move and talk a little bit about programs that are designed to help our adults and also for our young folks as well. And that is the Legging It for Literacy that's going to be coming up on October the 20th. But before we get started with that, Debbie, you're all very, very comical, I guess, and animated. Animated, and you have on your head some antennas, and I think that there's a little contest going on, right?
That's right.
Talk about the contest that you have going on.
Well, some of you may also know me as the Spelling Bee, because in February we have our annual adult community spelling bee, and I dress up as Debbie, the Spelling Bee. Well, this year I have a great board of directors, and the chairman, William and Rebecca Ralph, are the chair of our Legging It for Literacy, and they wanted to do something a little bit different for the night run, and so they came up with the glow, the lightning bug, or the glow. They want everyone to dress in bright colored clothes, and to those little neon glow lights, or any kind of glow lights, or glow paint, just to come out and glow while you run, or glow while you cheer the runners on. Okay. So we have a glow theme, and we have a little firefly, or whatever you call it, on our registration form. And so they said, well, we'll come up with a new name for you. You can be a lightning bee, or you can be a glow bee. So I'm going to put that out to our viewing audience for a new name for our mascot for our Legging It. Should I be a glow bee, or should I be a lightning bee?
Oh my.
So we'll just see what your viewing audience. You can call me at West Georgia Tech, or you can, when you see Alton, tell him what you think.
All right.
Glow bee or lightning bee, or
something.
Yeah, something else.
Something else, I guess. Well, very good. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, and I've got such an energetic a board, and like I say, William and Rebecca, they're runners, and they came up with this just to sort of, we've done the night run probably for about 10 years now, and just to change it up and Country's Barbecue is one of our main sponsors, and you know, Country's in Columbus does the midnight run, and so we didn't think that we were quite ready for a midnight run, so we're doing ours at 10 o'clock, so people can be in bed by midnight if they want to. And so that's you know, it's taken off, and with Country sponsorship, and when you register all the participants, when you finish, you're going to get a good old Country's Barbecue sandwich and a cup of sweet tea. So you know, that's something to go across that finish line for.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about now, because it's a 5 kilometer or 3.1 mile.
Right.
And let's talk about the route and talk about how people can register to be involved with this, Debbie.
Okay. They can go online at active.com to register, or their registration forms at Country's that you can fill out and turn in there or mail in to me. And we wanted to have those by October the 13th. But if you get them in a little bit later and you can say you saw me on LGTV, just write it on there, then we'll give you that $25 pre-registration fee. Right. But after October the 13th, it should be $30. Okay. So, but if you just write on your application, and write Glow-Bee or Lightning Bee on LGTV, you know, we'll take that $25 pre-registration fee if you happen to register after the 13th.
Very good.
So.
And they have to understand is the funding, the registration fee is going for a very worthwhile cause here in our community. And talk about that a little bit more for us, Debbie.
It's you know, CLCP has been around for 10 years, and our goal is to reach over half of that 15,000 residents to increase their literacy in a 10-year time frame. And we got a little bit behind because I got a little sidetracked with early learning. So our numbers are based on adult learners and not the early childhood learners. So we got a little sidetracked, but we're back on track now, and we probably need about 800 more adults to reach our goal. And then we'll be qualified as a certified literate community.
Very good.
And we won't, you know, we've reached our goal, but then we've got to go back and reach all those other folks, the other half.
There you go.
But the money stays right here in Troup County, you know, and it goes to, like I said, the GED scholarships. When I first started with CLCP, I think the GED tests were like $33 for the whole battery, and then they went to $90, and now they've gone up to $160. And there's 5 tests, and so yeah,
that could add up to someone.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so we have a scholarship, and you know, we just don't give it to anyone who walks in the door and says, you know, I want to take the test. They have to enroll in classes. You know, the teacher has to recommend them for the scholarship. They have to take a pre-GED test and pass it, and then we interview them. They write, you know, a little essay of why they would like to be considered for the GED scholarship, and we interview them. And then if we think they're a good candidate, we give them the scholarship.
So being good stewards of the money then.
Yes, And we've had, so far, I think we've given over 120 scholarships.
Very good. Very good. And you know, and I think again, it's something that's so much needed now. And then, you know, for them to have to take the battery of tests, write the little essay, interview, I don't think that's asking too much of them, you know, to contribute to their own self-development. You know, and again, we just want to thank you all for doing the job that you do here in the community. And not only, excuse me, is the run available for adults, I know that you all have and this is a tongue tire here, a tot trot too as well.
That's right, because we want the parents to bring their children and get the children involved. And they can either pay $5 for that or bring 3 children's new or gently used books. And what we do with those books, we put them in waiting areas around Troup County, the doctor's office or DFACS, or I can't think of all the other places that we have those books available for the children that are waiting with their parents. So they can read, and if they take those books home, that's great. Because I know one thing that people just do not believe when I tell them that there are families in this community that do not have any books in their home. And so that's part of this reading. You know, you've got to have the materials available for the children. So we're making that available and giving that to the children. Like, you know, we have to fill those bins up, you know, at least once a month because the books disappear, and that's great. And we put adult books in there also, so the adults can take them home. But that's what those books go for. And then we do a summer reading program in the Housing Authority, and we've had some really good support us with that. I don't know if you, Chloe Harrell, she's, I think she's 8 years old now. One thing that she's been doing for her birthday is to ask people to bring her books instead of presents. And last year she did a collection for us, and she collected over 500 books, I think, to give to the summer reading program.
Very good.
And, or maybe it was more than that. But anyway, she collected, and we go in the Housing Authority, Lucy Morgan and Benjamin Harvey, once a week, and we read to the children and give them books, because we know these children don't have, most of them don't have the opportunity to go to the library to check out books. And one thing that we want to avoid is that summer slide, where, you know, they're out of school, they're not reading, they're not, you know, but the Housing Authority does a really good job of trying to keep the children engaged, and we go and we give them books, and research says if they read at least 6 to 12 books over the summer, that will help them to stay at the point where they finish school. So there won't be that backtracking when they go back to school.
And that's so important too.
Oh, it is. And it's just, you know, you've got to read it, and so you can't take a vacation from education.
That's right.
That's another saying that we have at COCP. You can't take a vacation from education. It may be summer, but, you know,
still got to keep the brain
engaged. Read for fun,
right.
you know.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
but that's with those Tot Trot. That's some of the. That's what we do with some of the books, and it's just a small course that we have the children to run, and they're just so excited to do this. And, you know, we give them a little medal at the end, and you know, that's just one way to bring them in to be part of this.
Let's talk about the route, Debbie, and then we want to close out, but I think you have some sponsors, and also if there is someone out there that still would like to become a sponsor, we want to talk about that. But let's talk a little bit about the route first of all, where the run will begin and where it will wind through.
If you go to our website, troopclcp.org, there is a route on there, but it's incorrect. We're going to correct that today, but I want you to go to that website, because, you know, we're going to correct that today. But I think it's similar to the one that we had last year. It starts at Sugar Myers on Ridley Avenue, and it goes up Ridley, and then it turns on Smith Street beside the where we are right here,
near the old post office.
Near the old post office.
Right.
And then you run down to North Greenwood. Go straight down North Greenwood. Then you're going to take a right on North Greenwood. And you're going to run in front of the high school. When you get to Honeycutt Place, that red light by the high school, you're going to take a left, go all the way down Honeycutt Place, up Azalea, and then there's a little connecting street called Magnolia.
Right.
I think all our runners probably know this better than I do, but you're going to go through Magnolia over to Lakewood. Then you're going to take a left on Lakewood, and then that's going to run you through Piney Woods, and then you're going to go on Waverly Way, Windsor Avenue, Waverly Way, Edmondson, Springdale, and then back on, I think it's West Harrelson, to bring you back up to,
over to
the square. And we're containing, instead of being on the square, the City of LaGrange asked us if we would just have it on Church Street by the Baptist Church. That little strip right there. So we'll have the showmobile, and we have a band, the Smoky Road. I think that's the name of the band. Yeah, the Smoky Road Band will be there, and we would like to have some other entertainment if there's anyone out there that would like to sing or dance or do Zumba. You know, we have an hour there that we have open.
Just
that
have
we would
fun
like
after the run, right? Fun
have that. But the run starts, registration starts at 7 o'clock, so, you know, you can come at 7 o'clock and loosen up, or, you know, do whatever runners do. We have 1 mile walk, and I do that 1 mile walk. So.
So you're very much involved as well.
Yeah, so that's right. We have if you know, you're hardcore and you want to do the 5K, and then we have the 1 mile walk, or you can run that too. And we had a little 5-year-old to sign up. That, you know, he wanted to try and do that 1 mile. So, you know, and not just Tot Trot. And then, like I say, we have the Tot Trot. But registration begins at 7, and the run begins at 10. The 1 mile run or walk begins at 10:05. So they'll usually come in about the same time.
Well, very good. Well, Deb, you know, it's always a pleasure to sit down with you, and you know, I just know that everybody's going to come out and support the 12th annual Legging It for Literacy, because again, it's for a very worthwhile cause. But you do a great job, so we want to thank you for coming on once again and sharing this information. And we look forward for that contest. So you definitely have to let us know whether Glow Bee or Lightning Bee. Well,
Okay.
Debbie, thank you very much for coming on today and talking
Thank
about
you.
legging it for
Can I tell you
literacy.
one more thing?
One more thing.
In addition to the country's barbecue and sweet tea, if you register, you're going to get a long sleeve t-shirt. And this year, we're going with that moisture wicking t-shirt, not just your regular cotton t-shirt. It's that popular kind that the runners like to wear.
Okay.
It's similar to this. But, you know, the runners say that's just a really good t-shirt because it absorbs.
Kind of absorbs
Yeah,
the perspire. Okay.
So, you know, I mean, you're getting a deal and you're helping your community out, too.
Absolutely. Well, Debbie, we thank you for all that you do in our community, and we wish you not only success on this one, but the legging it for literacy to come in the future.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're back from One City Week in just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining for City Week this week. My guest has been the Executive Director of the Certified Literacy Program, Debbie Burdett. And she talked to us about the various programs in our community to help not only the early children, but also the infants while they're still in the womb. And she also finished up by talking about the 12th annual Legging It for Literacy that will be taking place on October the 20th in downtown LaGrange. So you want to make sure that you come out and support this very worthwhile cause in our community. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for joining for City Week. And as always, I want to invite you back for more of City Week.